moderator, is Ansoo Gupta, the CEO of Pinstorm. Okay, so Ansoo Gupta, with her corporate experience spanning 20 years, has had a rise in her career as a marketing and media professional, and in her last role as the brand manager at Fox Network, Ansoo helped launch the History Channel on television sets across India and Southeast Asia. She had a long stint at Star TV and National Geographic Channel. Also, she's currently the Chief Operating Officer of multinational digital brands management firm Pinstorm. She runs a multinational team across India, Singapore, Malaysia, US and Europe that looks to help clients across the world with innovative and effective marketing and branding solutions using digital media while building a sound and profitable organization. May I welcome our moderator on the stage, Ms. Ansoo Gupta. Everyone, please give her a big hand. And then we have our speakers. Our first is Mr. Sanjeeb Chaudhuri, as you all just met him. Global Brand Head and CMO at Standard Chartered. Then we have Ms. Manisha Rana, the Chief Marketing Officer at KOOVS, a trusted senior marketing professional with national level senior leadership experience in marketing, extensive experience in managing all channels of marketing, online and traditional, a proactive planner with cross-functional expertise in strategic planning, business analysis, research and consumer insight. Everyone please give her a big hand. Then we have Ms. Sangeeta Thakral, the Head Communications and Marketing, Charities Aid Foundation, India. She's a communication and marketing specialist with more than 15 years of experience in the field of branding, communication, digital media, campaigns and training delivery. Under her leadership, the CAF India brand has been successfully positioned as a trusted name in the sector and has created a remarkable brand recall amongst its stakeholders, that is, donors, corporates and NGO partners. Everyone please give her a big hand, Ms. Sangeeta Thakral. And our final panelist speaker is Mr. Kunaal Bhardwaj, with years of experience in top agencies like Saatchi & Saatchi, JWT, Havas. He is now spearheading as marketing initiatives and activities of Dainik Bhaskar Digital. After getting into the digital business, he is primarily focusing on the emerging markets in India, user acquisition, amplifying social footprint and market development on digital. So, everyone please give him a big hand. We have with us Mr. Kunaal Bhardwaj, the Head of Marketing, Dainik Bhaskar Digital. Over to you, ma'am.
Welcome to the Marketing Technology panel. In some ways, it's a little, the term MarTech signifies the huge change that has happened in marketing over all these years. While marketing teams and the head of marketing, the CMOs, were always responsible for the consumer data, consumer behavior, the other big pillar was this whole creativity in the marketing communications. And very little part of technology used to be integrated in those marketing plans. I remember even till about a decade or maybe about 15 years back, if anything like a website or even a Google search campaign was discussed, it would be very quickly passed on to the IT team or to the tech team. And the CTOs used to be taking care of the website and be taking care of the rudimentary campaigns that were running at that point of time. From then to now, in just about a decade, the huge change that technology has played in the functioning of the marketing departments is tremendous. And I was just looking at a panel, and always the financial sector and aviation has been the driver of digital in India. You know, when I started working in digital about 10 years back, one of our very, very first few clients were actually from banking and from aviation, and incidentally, one of the charities, which I will talk about as well. So, in this panel to have a representation from media, from a charity, from a out and out consumer brand and banking is actually again significant of the times. So what I would like to do is to hand over to each one of you and start with some sort of an opening statement of how you have seen across your experience over organizations and over sectors perhaps, or how technology has played a changing role in the marketing roles that you've done. And maybe Manisha, you should start.
Thank you. So when I first started working in the digital space, so to say, after having worked for about 8 years in the space, right, I worked with Make My Trip. Like you said, aviation is a sector, and I was working on the international markets, managing flights and hotels for international markets, US and Canada. The technology scene in the world markets at that point of time, the digital scene was really way ahead than what it was in the domestic scene. So my early exposure to understanding how technology is the backbone of every marketing activity that you have to get into going ahead was really the start of my digital learning career. In the last 12 years of having worked significantly in the e-commerce and the digital space, I don't think marketing and technology are really two separate fields. They're so intertwined in everyday behavior. There isn't a CMO today who can say that technology does not play a significant role in either identification of the consumers and communication to the consumers, both legs, right? So they're very intertwined in everyday business, everyday communication. Yes, there is a layer of brand communication which is more intuitive, more consumer insight-led, more consumer behavior-led. But who do you want to reach out to and how do you communicate to them, are what technology helps you define and take forwards to.
So incidentally, in the year 2014, there was this article which was written at The Garden which talked about the chief marketing technologist. And at that point of time, they were still making predictions that by the year 2020, technology would play a significant role in marketing. But clearly, we've seen that happening much faster. And I think what Manisha said, that it's almost inconceivable for a marketing team to now think of technology any different from the marketing efforts that they do. And there's 2-3 ways in this technology element affects marketing, and what we would like our panel to do is to look at all of them. So there is technology and there is analytics, right? There are two things, and a lot of times they kind of overlap one into another because it's because of technology that we have now that much analytics that you can analyze and then further fine-tune your marketing plan. I want to start with one of the most obvious role that technology plays is in gathering consumer data and then fine-tuning your marketing plan around it. And who better than Sanjeeb you to talk about that?
Thank you. I would thank you for, this is a question which is very dear to my heart because, as you heard earlier in the morning, banks and financial institutions have a lot of data. Unfortunately, the data in the past, because of technology inadequacy, was not being able to be crunched, especially at speed. And as I said in my presentation a few minutes back, consumers are now looking for online real-time benefits to be delivered to them at the moment of contact or at the moment of purchase. So that being the case, I believe that a big role is being played by the technology capabilities around big data. But very importantly, I would like to draw a kind of a distinction between just analytics and the insights from those analytics which should drive marketing decision making and marketing actions. So for example, today you have the technology based on one, the capability to crunch the data very quickly at high speeds, very large amounts of first party as well as third party data because of the cloud computing capabilities that you have. And actually based on models that you have created, either based on artificial intelligence or based on model building in the traditional way that you have done in the past, propensity models that was talked about again earlier today, you can actually deliver, as you are driving up to a shopping mall, targeted offers for the brand of clothes that we think you're going to buy. For example, the person from Snapdeal said a fashion decision may be decided within hours, whereas a washing machine decision or a microwave decision may take days. You can actually deliver a shopping decision offer at the point when you're actually parking your car. That's a big deal. And that's, I think, the future of marketing. And the more successfully we can do it across industries, not just banks, not just finance companies, the more you'll get the returns from it.
So, in a way, what we are also saying is now, because data is available at an individual level, there is no more the need of kind of marketing campaigns that were thought of earlier. Earlier, you would, the marketing teams would spend, let's say, 3 months doing a market research, figuring out the data, then figuring out the most viable target groups, and only to cater to those target groups, because it was not possible to cater to every single diverse set of audience, even if there were smaller niches available. So you would figure out the largest niche, you would figure out a large media campaign which would talk to that large niche, and that was almost like a carpet bombing kind of campaign that we used to see earlier. Today it is actually possible for anybody to run a campaign which is individually tailored to every single person who's in this room, right? That I mean, it's a very interesting topic, because that's the premise on which Pinstorm, the company where I work, was built on. Pinstorm was about pinpointing your targets. Now, it kind of completely changes the way advertising was done, marketing was done, advertising agencies used to work, right? And I would like to ask you, do you think that this data gets overwhelming at some point of time? Does it take away from the marketing function that one has to actually perform?
No, I think it's not, because the overload of data should not be stifling creativity. I'm sure that's what you are coming to. But today, you have the capability, powered by technology, to deliver. You use the word niche. Marketing textbooks in the past used to say one of the requirements of segmentation is it should be a sizable segment. Today you can segment to a target market of one. And that capability to target a target market of one, delivered through a media, which I talked about through programmatic media buying, on digital media, paid, search, etc. You can actually say, I'll get the results of that campaign. If it's worked, great. If it's not worked, I'll tweak it. That's the creativity which is still there.
So this is the point at which I segue into this other part. So technology has done a lot of new additions to the way media was planned, to the way targeting was planned. But let's talk about how technology and analytics has helped creativity, has helped in fine-tuning the message that a brand wants to give to the audience. And Kunaal, I think representing the media, you would perhaps be the best one to talk about that.
Sure. So there was this one statement when Sanjeeb was giving his speech, and I really liked it. It's called Life Partner. I really liked that speech. That word there. So as a marketer and as media, see, I don't have a product that I'm selling. I'm media. I can't really create anything. The only thing that I can do is sell an experience. Wherein, as a marketer who works predominantly in the Hindi speaking belt, where the challenges are much greater than if I was maybe a lifestyle brand, because then I'll be talking to people who understand technology. I'm talking to those people who have a 2,000 rupee smartphone and get a 50 rupee recharge just to receive calls. When I look at that sort of a scenario, there's a very weird sort of a catch-22 or a dichotomy that I have, wherein my biggest task is to become a partner with these guys and make them come to my website to consume my experience. But what we have seen in the last 700 days, 2 years, is websites are dead. It's the most difficult thing is to make somebody type your URL and come in. Unless you, let's say, a Facebook, that's just always there. While we do that, in terms of creativity, see, the biggest problem that technology has brought in, and I think I'm going to be the devil's advocate in this panel. The biggest issue that technology has brought in is it's caused this phenomenon called ad blindness, wherein Of course, and as Sanjeeb very rightly mentioned, and as all of you very rightly mentioned, that I have tons of data. I know for a fact at what time my consumer is going to be, let's say, in his train and he's going to his factory to work. Because that's the guy who's going to read a Hindi this thing. So maybe I will send him an SMS blast or I'll send him a notification if he's got my app. But the issue is, as marketeers, the communication, the advertising, the go-to market, it's become more and more difficult because at the time where I am speaking to him, there are 50 other people speaking to him. So that's where the issue happens. And I think clearly the way marketing, advertising and communication has evolved, more and more towards getting into, like you said earlier, specific time-based, location-based, event-based communication, rather than the carpet bombing that we used to do. कि यार चलो ad लगा दी है in the newspaper, शायद कोई देख ले. So that's, in a nutshell, I think the scenario that's there right now. You really need to hold your horses when you're communicating with these guys.
So you mentioned that even though there is this availability of pinpointing the target through technology, like you know exactly what time and you can send that particular number a message about something. But you also mentioned that there are 50 other people doing that, right? Yeah. So that technology is equally available to everyone,
absolutely.
Right? So how does one counter that is one thing. Also, when Kunaal was talking, I heard a lot of ayes and yes from Manisha, so I'm sure she has some points to add as well. So either of you can.
I actually have more no's to add to it, right? So there is this inevitable noise in the connected world.
Yeah.
Like you rightly said, the same consumer is buying fashion, is consuming news, is buying a mobile, and everybody's trying to reach out to the same millennial defined as 18 to 24 young upcoming audience, right? I think technology helps you understand whether at 9 a.m. in the morning he's going from his home to his factory. That's the advantage technology brings to you, to say this kind of segment of audience is behaving at this particular time this way. To layer that has to be marketing, which is your content, right? How differentiated is your content of what you're telling the consumer? How engaging is that, or how relevant is that to the consumer? That will make the difference. Just reliance on technology to help segment the consumer is one benefit of technology.
Absolutely, I think that's the first part. I mean, it's all about delivering exceptional customer or consumer experiences. And what happens and what I've been seeing is many a times, because see, and I'll share an example with you. The speed at which technology consumption by the consumer is changing. We guys sitting here in metros, we can't even imagine how tech savvy this country is becoming. We do researches, we go down, we go to villages. I'll go to Gujarat, I'll go to those villages there, I'll go to small towns, satellite towns of Bhopal, Indore, so on and so forth. The amount of tech savviness that those people have is absolutely mind-boggling. Sometimes as marketers and as companies, we get so mesmerized by technology that we, like I'll give you an example. When you're consuming news, there's this feature called using AI. We used to have these slides, which you could, you see one slide and then you go to the other slide to read a part of the news. Now, why do companies use that? Because that increases page depth and time on site. And that's a measure that we use to get ad revenues. For the consumer, that's the most irritating thing on the planet.
I'm glad you say that, because I always used to think, how come media people don't know that it is very irritating for consumers? So you guys do know.
That's the thing, we know. That's what I'm saying. As companies, as not just marketers, as CEOs, CXOs, often we get so mesmerized by technology that we have to, what we do is we start eating into the customer experiences. And like I said in the beginning, websites are dead. If you eat into the consumer experience once when he's consuming you from his phone, if once you irritated him or pissed him off, that's it. He's not coming back.
So now this is interesting, because you know that the customer experience is important, and just because the technology is available, you would continue to do something which you already know that is extremely annoying for the consumer. I think consumer experience and consumer pleasure, which was the key element of all marketing campaigns 20 years back, 15 years back, and after this whole invasion of technology in the marketing teams, will still rule king, right? And I think now the trick will lie in the fact that which companies and which brands find that balance between the use and the abuse of technology in marketing campaigns, right? And we'll talk about that some more. Now, coming to you, Sangeeta. Like I said, one of our very first few clients was CRY, actually, Child Belief in You, and long time back, 10 years back, they ran a campaign to do some sort of donation campaign, and it was very successful. And in that case, when we conceptualized the campaign, we almost saw every donation coming in pretty much like a sale happening, right? Like, look to book or whatever you want to call it. And I thought it was pretty forward of them 10 years back to think like that and to be using digital in that form. Of course, there's a whole lot of other cases that you might have come across where actually the non-profits have been some of the best digital campaigns. I'm sure all of you are aware of Ice Bucket Challenge and many other challenges, which was actually not to sell any product, but it was the most creative use of the networking platform, of the technology which was available. So tell me, how do you integrate technology and what challenges and what opportunities do you see?
Thanks. Yeah. As far as the opportunities are concerned, I would say that opportunities are humongous. And looking at the challenge, let me just take one step back and tell you how not-for-profit perceive marketing and technology both. Because if you talk about marketing is a no-go zone for the not-for-profit. Because this is very much associated with a for-profit, the terminology I'm talking about. And then comes technology. There are definitely some not-for-profit which has international lineages, and because of that, they're a little bit advanced as far as adoption of technology and marketing is concerned. And I'm talking about a perspective in terms of India. If you look at global perspective, the scenario may be slightly different. But I would agree to what Ansoo said, that if you look at some campaign, especially the ASL Ice Bucket one, which have been the most popular, or a campaign which could raise more awareness around the topic, comes from the not-for-profit sector. But if you look at how post-campaign the whole, the entire ecosystem of campaign or marketing is utilized, you have certain set of data which you capture through a campaign. But what happens after that? If you look at for-profit sector, you take data very seriously, where you then go ahead and do a crunching to understand the behavior and the pattern of your donor, to see who was that, how do they donate, and where do they go, and XYZ. But the not-for-profit sector has not yet evolved to that level, or I would say to a large extent. I would not like to generalize. There are definitely few who have been into that space already, but most of the not-for-profit are still struggling to get there. What their main focus now is, of course, everybody is looking at technology and integrating that with marketing. Their two main objectives why the not-for-profit exists, I would say CAF India is an exception in that case, because we work both with corporate as well as not-for-profit, where we provide CSR advisory to the corporates, and then we do grant making to the not-for-profit sector. So our position is more like an aggregator if you look at the fundraising element of not-for-profit and generating awareness. I'm not going to touch the part where we work with the corporates providing CSR consultancy role and all that thing. But when we look at the fundraising aspect, and then we see our preparedness, data is something where nobody has focus. Every day you see a new campaign coming from the not-for-profit sector, but what happens after that? And as we were talking about the noise in the for-profit sector, with a lot of things that you're offering to, where your consumer pays money and gets an experience. But if you talk about donation, your donor gives money not for buying a product, but for an emotional satisfaction, which means that taking out 1 rupee from a donor or an expected or a prospective customer is more difficult for a not-for-profit, and that is the reason why we need to have more analytics roped into our campaigns. But unfortunately, the sector has not evolved to that state. However, I could see, so I'm just kind